So the design process for any sort of character or any sort of art that isn't designed by me is kind of a back and forth. And it's always very delicate because if I'm designing a character that I haven't actually created myself, I have to be really careful because my own personal thoughts and headcanons will sometimes end up on the paper when that isn't what the character actually looks like. So it's usually a lot of back and forth. Lauren was kind enough to not just give me descriptions, so not just a tall person with brown hair. Instead, she was able to send me a lot of reference photos, so photos of actors and of people with the hairstyles and with the facial features and body types that she wanted, that she had imagined the characters having and that she wanted to represent in this comic. So for me personally, it's very important that I correctly portray all of the different races and body types that we have in the comic. So I wanted to be very careful that I wasn't accidentally drawing something incorrectly or drawing something in a way that wasn't accurate. So after I had done the initial sketches of the characters' faces and hairstyles, I sent them to Lauren. She double checked. And then what I did was I actually just took a whole page of pen tests, of swatches basically of colors, of skin tones, and gave it to Lauren and was like, here, mark down which characters have which skin tones so that I can be sure that I'm doing it correctly. Because we have a whole range in the comic. And that also gives me the really great backup of that I have everything written down so that later, months later, if I want to go back and draw a character again, I don't have to guess at what kind of skin tone I gave them or what kind of hair I gave them, because it's all written down and I've got the reference numbers for the colors. As far as the design process for the comic itself and not just characters, it's a lot of back and forth again. We use a lot of Facebook messaging, so I'm able to sketch something out, take a picture of it, and send it to Lauren over Facebook to get her input really fast, so that then I can alter the sketch, redo it, and have a finished product that's closer to what we both imagined and not just me. With the format for the comic, we knew that it was going to be every week, and so I needed something manageable so that I would be able to know that I could produce good quality and on the schedule that we wanted. So we agreed on a 2-panel structure. 2 panels will be enough to give our audience some content to look forward to every week, but it won't be so much that I'll fall behind and won't be able to perform up to the quality that I'd like to. So to talk about the design process for characters, I think it'll be good to give kind of an example or two. So Rollins was the very first character I ever drew, which is typical. I always pick some sort of side character that I love more than anything and obsessively draw them, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. So I loved Rollins when I first saw his description. So the very first character I drew was him, and I drew kind of a realistic headshot, which is usually where I start with characters, and then a half-body reference shot of him in my more simplified style. I sent that over to Lauren, who looked at him and said, his hair's not curly enough, and sent me some more reference photos on top of the ones I already had to help me fix that problem with his hair. Once that was fixed, I sent it over again, and she okayed it. At that point, I moved on to colors, so once I had all of the colors referenced from that conversation we had about skin tones, and hair color and eye color, then I was able to make a full color half body sketch that I'll now use as a reference for later. Logan was a bit harder. He's our main character, but he was a little bit more of a difficult design process, and he was kind of the last character that we even sketched, or that I even sketched. And that was partly because we went through several hairstyles for him, so we had to find the right reference photo. And that was also because he's blind, and I wanted to make sure that I was accurately representing his blindness in a way that was didn't look cartoony and didn't look kind of fake, but also that wasn't going to be so realistic that it clashed with my style. So what I did was I did a lot of research, I did a lot of looking at pictures, and I finally picked a style that I hope looks good for his eyes. I actually don't have a color sketch for him yet, but that's on the agenda for soon. So as far as color goes, steampunk usually has a very fixed palette. Steampunk usually has a lot of metallic colors, so you have your bronze and your silver and your gold and your dark pewter. And it usually also goes along with a more earthy palette, so a lot of reds and browns and dark muted tones. For the comic, I kind of wanted to pull in a color that wasn't as typical steampunk, because we aren't really setting it in Victorian England. So I kind of chose purple, a darker purple, as something that we could use in the school's crest, in the uniform, and also in our social media presence.